Hello, hello. Hey, folks. I might make small talk here for a minute or two, but then get going. First presentation of the day and kind of a remote breakout room. Maybe we'll get a couple more folks to straggle in. But if not, I'll dive in and maybe I'll just introduce myself to start out. I'm Greg Gholson. I know some of you, not all of you. I've been working for EPA for a long time, most of it in tribal work. So it's an honor to be here and present at the Tribal EPA conference. And maybe I'll leave it at that for now. But again, thanks for getting your cup of coffee and showing up for a cybersecurity presentation first thing in the morning. You know, I'm not good at small talk, so maybe I'll just dive into it. It looks like we've got a full room as we're going to get. I'm not seasoned at this, but I do want to pause and make a land acknowledgement. I just noticed that or should have thought about it on my way down here, but we're on the Muwekma Ohlone traditional lands, so it's an honor to be here. And thank you all for inviting me to present. As I mentioned, I'm EPA, rather Greg Gholson with EPA, Region 9. I work up in San Francisco, and I work in the tribal drinking water team. So that work takes me out to the field a lot, and I love it and get to visit you all in your places of work and get to see your water systems and your tanks and your beautiful homes. So, hey, a few more folks showed up. Wonderful. Some of my EPA colleagues. Let's pull up my note slide here and dive into it. So we've got a pretty small room, and this is a fairly streamlined presentation, so please don't worry about interrupting me. If you've got questions, just jump right in. Otherwise, plenty of time to take questions at the end, and happy to do so. So the title of my presentation is Cybersecurity for the Water Sector, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. It's a real new topic for us in water utilities. So hopefully this will be some new relevant information for you all. Before I dive into it, just wanted to talk briefly about some of the background that brought us here, meaning our focus on cybersecurity. And I won't go into too much detail, but I have been privy to some cybersecurity threat briefings hosted by FBI, CISA, with high-level EPA involvement. And honestly, I can say it was really chilling to hear the reality that sophisticated cyber actors from nation states are seeking to exploit vulnerabilities and steal information and money, and they're developing the capacity to disrupt, destroy, and threaten the delivery of essential services such as drinking water and wastewater. So again, really chilling to think about the concept of organized nation states that are diligently working to find risks and threats and exploit them within the water and wastewater industry. So it's a real risk, and I think we all realize that, and we need to gear up to protect our utilities and our customers. Again, nation state actors have demonstrated an intent to target U.S. water and wastewater utilities, and oftentimes these cyber threat actors are using ransomware against water and wastewater utilities. I think maybe folks have heard about this, maybe experienced it themselves. I see a couple head nods. I heard about some cyber attacks just this week that impacted water utilities that Region 9 works with. So it's a real problem, and it's in front of us presently. The couple other points here on internet-facing networks, ransomware can quickly propagate to affect other operations. So I'll dive into that more. Again, it's not always just a ransomware issue, but that ransomware issue can spiral and affect your whole utility, including the delivery of safe water or treatment of wastewater. Because my expertise is in drinking water, I'm going to focus most on drinking water, but of course these comments and this presentation also peripherally deals with the risk to wastewater utilities as well, that I know you all, many of you, have multiple responsibilities across these programs. So the real goal of my presentation is to encourage you to get involved, coordinate with your federal partners, whether that be EPA, FBI, or CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. There's a host of resources out there to assist, and what we're trying to encourage you to do is to coordinate with us beforehand, to take proactive steps to protect your utility before you're in a situation where you have a ransomware attack or some kind of cyber hack that impacts your system. So next slide. Sorry for my, let's see. So I'm going to do my best not to read my slides, but there's a couple of things I wanted to get in front of you. And some of you may know, this is some bureaucratic background, but EPA published an interpretive rule addressing cybersecurity in March of 2023. There was a big push to move the program forward as a regulatory required program. However, it does seem like we moved a little too fast. Some states, particularly the state of Missouri, led the charge in suing EPA to rescind that rule. They felt that there were some concerns related to most pointedly protection of sensitive information that wasn't fully thought out in the rule. So that rule was withdrawn, and we kind of went back to the starting board. Next slide. And what that starting board is we're rolling out a voluntary program. I do know that there's a lot of work with states to develop statewide cybersecurity programs. Our partners in the state drinking water program are overseeing that effort. But in our program, the direct implementation program, we got guidance from headquarters with kind of specific asks to roll out a voluntary cybersecurity program for tribal drinking water utilities. So that's what we're doing. And comment here is we're committed to using all of our resources to address this very real risk. Next slide, please. I think, next slide, please. I think I covered that. Uh-oh, this might be my first technical glitch. That maybe there was a cyber hack. You know, it's not a joking matter. I tend to make light of things. I apologize. Uh-oh. Well, I do have this presentation on my laptop if that's a backup option. Well, while they're working on that, I will spare you another slide that I was going to read and just talk about a key component and a term, again, that I wanted to get in front of you, and that is a concept called operational technology. We're the federal government, so we quickly created an acronym. We call it OT. But OT, basically what that means is operational technology. I'm going to read this here so I don't misstate, is defined as a combination of software and hardware to monitor and control specific devices and processes in an industrial setting. So operational technology is not specific to the water sector, but I think if many of you work in utilities, you realize that this kind of software and hardware is integral to water system operations. Fantastic. So I got a couple examples of typical operational technology that you all might be familiar with. The most common would be what we refer to as SCADA, or a supervisory control and data acquisition system. Again, big name, but you might be familiar with SCADA systems at more complicated surface water treatment plants. These kind of systems can monitor and adjust a variety of treatment processes, oftentimes remotely via internet connection. So another integral piece of hardware that's often utilized at drinking water utilities is a remote terminal unit. I've got some pictures of this equipment in the field, but essentially RTU, as it's known, would accept a signal, oftentimes from a telemetry unit, and then it's actually the interface, human-machine interface. It's a device that might be hooked up to a pump that could receive a signal from a radio transmitter at a tank site, and then actually turn on a pump. So it's the connection between the information technology and the operational technology. So again, RTUs are common hardware that you might find at a water utility, as well as programmable, here we go. Programmable logic controllers. These things have changed a lot. You might not see something like this in the field. It might be incorporated in an RTU and communication equipment, but essentially what a PLC allows water systems to do is manipulate levels. I was recently out in the field, and a really easy example that I can utilize is tank levels. Oftentimes a PLC will be housed at a pump house, maybe with an adjacent treatment plant, and this PLC will accept a signal from a radio transmitter, and it'll say, hey, you know, the tank level got down to 14 feet. Let's turn that tank on. And when it gets up to 18 or 20, let's turn it off so it doesn't overflow. So this allows you to set parameters, if you will, for controls that your SCADA, telemetry, and or RTU will function on. Again, these things are getting smaller. They're getting incorporated, but kind of the new day, we're seeing this level of technology at even simple groundwater systems that you all may manage. And this is my new slide. Hopefully I didn't step over any copyright rules getting this off the internet, but the point I'm trying to make here is these operational technology systems, these telemetry systems, these SCADA systems, they used to be manually controlled from a static location, your pump house, your treatment plant, your administrative headquarters, and they were hardwired. But increasingly now, what we're seeing is a connection to the internet, and it's that connection to the internet that poses a risk to your water system. So we're going to be reaching out to you all and trying to figure out what water systems have operational technology, and furthermore, what water systems have a connection to the internet that presents potential risk to your water system. So as usually, I got a little ahead of myself. So kind of what is EPA Region 9 going to do as part of our new strategy, and how are we going to engage with you all? Well, folks like me, program managers in EPA's tribal drinking water section, will be reaching out to utility managers and lead operators, our primary contacts at your water systems, and we'll be doing a survey of operational technology. Some systems may say, you know what, I've got 2 wells. They're both operated manually. We turn them on and off. We've got simple disinfection that's handled with a float switch. There's no connection to the internet. We don't feel we have a risk. And I think we would agree with you. Other systems might say, you know what, we just upgraded our telemetry system and we do have a connection to the internet. And I was in the field recently, and it was a really great example where an operator was able to show me that he could turn the pump on and off with his cell phone. And certainly the pump came on when we were there in the pump house. The chlorine pump came on, and he demonstrated that remote access, which is becoming, standard. And just incredible change for operators. An operator I work with used to have to drive all over his reservation, sometimes miles and miles, around the mountain to get to remote communities. And it was a real challenge for him to operate his system manually. So with a new telemetry system that I have to say was funded with EPA assistance through our BILL program, they've got a new fancy telemetry system in place with brand new operational technology and a connection to the internet. So with that connection comes a risk, and then that's where we come involved. I'll be reaching out to that system and others, and my goal here is to encourage systems with a risk, with operational technology, with a connection to the internet, to conduct a voluntary cybersecurity assessment to figure out what your risks are, and more importantly, to figure out a plan to address those risks. So again, you'll be hearing from your program managers this year. We're rolling this out, again, as a voluntary program, but definitely a priority. So you'll hear more about this. So who needs to participate in a water system cybersecurity assessment? Well, of course, the regulated universe is those with operational technology, as I shouldn't say regulated universe, but the focus of our efforts will be those systems with operational technology with a potential risk. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is typically I work with utility directors, water system operators, maybe tribal management within a utility. But this is a little different. We're going to be asking you all to coordinate with folks in your IT department. So the utility informational technology professionals will have to work together to coordinate with EPA and complete a cybersecurity assessment. So again, we're going to ask you to kind of take the lead and jumping out of your organizational structure, reaching other departments and engage those IT professionals that can assist. I should pause there. Again, I was in the field recently and I had this discussion and I said, hey, you should got to reach out to your IT department. And I got a lot of giggles and smirks because I know a lot of water systems are under-resourced and you don't have an IT department. You might have somebody who is good with computers. So we know it's a challenge. We're going to kind of keep it low tech. We've got a lot of resources to assist. So that's our next goal, to engage you in the program and encourage these voluntary cybersecurity assessments. So what are the next steps to follow to complete a cybersecurity assessment? Well, that's not a clean transition there. My apologies. I'll get into that. There's a whole bunch of resources on the internet that I'm going to direct you to, and it's easy enough to just click on a button to request a cybersecurity assessment and get contacted by a subject matter expert in EPA cybersecurity branch. Believe it or not, we do have a cybersecurity branch. It's in our headquarters office of water in complicated acronym, WICARD, but ultimately we have a group of folks in the Office of Water focused on cybersecurity for the water sector, as well as a series of contractors with subject matter expertise in this area. So reaching out to EPA will get you clued in to our professionals, and they will reach out and assist you walking through the steps of completing a cybersecurity assessment. So these are some recent photos from the field. Yes, please.
Hi, if you don't have IT necessarily, like a really built out IT, do you work with casino IT departments who might be interested in like participating and have the resources to do so?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, without question. We'll work with whoever you have, whether that's the folks in the casino. Hopefully they also have responsibilities or can support your community water systems. But yeah, we're not going to differentiate as to, you know, folks that work in one department or another. We'll assist you the best we can. So again, here's some recent photos to demonstrate some field equipment that you might be familiar with. This equipment's newer maybe and functional. A lot of these old telemetry systems we found kind of fall out of use and out of maintenance. But here's an example of one that was recently installed. And what I want to highlight here is, again, operational technology, information technology, these cyber threats. Of course, folks would probably agree that at large, sophisticated, well-resourced surface water treatment plants, it's a risk, and you might assume they have programs. But the point I'm trying to make here is small groundwater systems that may have 10 to 20 connections and a single tank and a single well may have operational technology that presents a risk like the system here. And again, this is a simple groundwater system. What we have here is a radio transmittal signal from a tank location powered by solar. I could have got a better photo. I needed two. This is the bottom of that unit. And what's not really totally obvious, but it's hardwired to the tank. So that hardwire to the tank is a tank level indicator. So this operator can tell remotely the level of water in the tank. Again, the solar powered transmittal radio signal is transmitted to a pump location. And a treatment plant location. And again, this steel box here houses secured communication equipment. And as I mentioned, it's hardwired to the tank. And again, I could have got a better picture, but what I'm showing here is what you typically see with more modern telemetry equipment. This is at the pump and the well location with the adjacent treatment plant. And if I had a better picture, you could see that it's actually showing the operator the level of the tank. And this is the system where the operator demonstrated that he can access this system with his cell phone and turn it on and off the tank, and then turn the chlorine pump for disinfection remotely. So it's really great to see this new equipment in place, and we're hoping we can work with you to get more of it in place or upgrade old systems. But again, this is the type of technology that could present a potential cyber risk. So this is one of the main slides I want to highlight. EPA's got a wonderful website entitled just that, Cybersecurity for the Water Sector. So if you Google that, it'll come up quickly. If you go to this location, I've got these slides will be available, so the URL will be, I believe, posted after the presentation, so you can navigate there. And this page has got a really easy to use dialog button. Simply click on Request a Cybersecurity Assessment, and this little field will pop up asking you for some very basic contact information in order to reach out to you. I didn't get all the fields here. There's a few questions about the type of inquiry and the type of utility you might work with, a little bit more detail to properly route your request. But the purpose here is easy to utilize and navigate website. Simply click on the Request a Cybersecurity Assessment, type in some information, and that request will go to our subject matter experts in headquarters. They'll reach out to you and schedule the next steps. And I can talk about that in a little detail as well. I'll go back to this slide before I go too far. I also wanted to mention that if you've tackled the cybersecurity assessment or you have cybersecurity precautions in place and you feel, hey, we're good, but I have a cybersecurity question. Well, on this website, there's also a dialog box that says, click here to request a cybersecurity, to ask a cybersecurity question or a general cybersecurity inquiry. So again, something less than a full cybersecurity assessment might be your need. This website is kind of your portal, if you will, to ask questions and get in contact with our subject matter experts that specialize in this field. So cybersecurity for the water sector, our website has tons of useful information. So I encourage you to visit the website, not only to ask a question on cybersecurity or hopefully request a cybersecurity assessment, but also you can find information, pardon me as I navigate my notes page here. You can find tons of information on cybersecurity planning, and I won't go into all of the details, but for larger water systems that may be subject to the requirements of America's Water Infrastructure Act or AWIA. There's a whole bunch of information on how to comply with AWIA. I know a lot of times that doesn't apply to smaller tribal water systems, but there's great information on the top 8 cyber actions for securing your water system. I was navigating this page to hopefully prepare for any tough questions you might ask. But these top 8 cyber actions for water systems are super tips. They're really, in some cases, obvious things that you might not realize as a cyber threat. But one example is we highly recommend that water systems change default passwords on equipment. That seems to be an obvious risk, but oftentimes folks don't change their default passwords. Oftentimes, maybe an employee will be let go and the utility doesn't quickly remove his or her access from sensitive systems. Sometimes, you call your bank for an update on some financial matter and you get an email with a code, that two-factor authentication. We want to see two-factor authentication for access to all water system sensitive information. So as you can see, these are kind of common advice, common steps that we should know about. But again, this website will lead you to think about various aspects that you might not have focused on when you set up your system. Won't go too much into that. This website also has tons of information on cybersecurity trading. I I looked at it. There was actually a presentation yesterday on phishing. And what I'll pause here, oftentimes I think about cybersecurity in terms of a hack of the type of equipment I showed you that could impact an operator's ability to understand water tank levels or manipulate chlorine, disinfection levels. But the point here in our training is oftentimes it's a simple phishing attack, right? Somebody might send a malicious email to your finance department. Somebody may unwittingly open that and click on a link. Well, that link could be, or rather that email could be the cyber threat. And those phishing attacks often impact email systems. They have the potential to impact finance systems, but more importantly, those simple phishing attacks can spiral into impacts that affect the delivery of safe water. And an example that resonated with me looking through these case studies yesterday was a cyber threat that hacked a phishing attack that hacked an email system, but also disabled water system alarms. So you might not know if your tank, or rather if your water pump is running all night, overflowing your tank, which could ultimately result in a water outage. So those are the kind of things that can spiral that we don't always think about. So again, cybersecurity training on things as simple as phishing. There's a training hosted later this month. It's actually for incident response preparation for utilities in Tennessee. So it's not for this audience, but again, that highlighted to me that there are frequent trainings on issues and focused groups, utility groups. So great resource if you go to cybersecurity in the water sector and look at additional resources available for training. There's also a Cybersecurity 101 presentation that's saved, so you can go through that webinar at your leisure and kind of come up to speed. And then there's also cybersecurity assessment tutorial. I think the point I'm trying to make there is that some utilities may be hesitant to reach out to EPA to walk through a cybersecurity assessment, but I'll pause here and let you know that the cybersecurity assessment sounds like kind of a daunting endeavor. Really what it is it's a series of pointed questions organized around the format of an Excel worksheet. The subject matter expert or yourselves, if you choose to take the tutorial and tackle a cybersecurity assessment yourself, you would walk through those questions, responding appropriately, and it's a really useful assessment tool, spreadsheet, because depending on the particular responses, the cybersecurity assessment will generate a recommended corrective action or a mitigation approach. So all cybersecurity assessments conducted by EPA or carried out by yourself will automatically generate a risk mitigation plan following its completion. So it'll give you simple steps to take to identify and more importantly, to respond to those cybersecurity risks or potential risks that you come across as a part of the stepwise assessment. A cybersecurity response, I won't go too much into detail here, but there's a wonderful fact sheet, cybersecurity incident response fact sheet on the website. The takeaway here is if there is a cybersecurity hack, if you have ransomware issue, of course, you can call EPA. If your program manager is the first go-to contact, please, feel free to utilize us. We'll contact our headquarters office who has direct links to FBI and CISA. So what this website will say is not what I said. Don't call your EPA program manager, but rather reach out to FBI and CISA directly through links provided on that fact sheet. But again, if you want to use EPA because you work closely with us, please do so. We'll get you hooked into the response network. What I've been told repeatedly is if you do have a ransomware or some other hack, some utilities may say, I got to get back online. I'm going to pay this ransom. But we're encouraging systems to reach out to CISA or FBI. Oftentimes they have the keys, if you will, to unlocking that ransomware attack and can help you get back online without paying that ransomware. So those are the recommendations there. And then lastly, cybersecurity funding. Hopefully this is a good transition and a good bill for my colleagues in the Tribal Infrastructure Group. They're giving a presentation this afternoon on funding for water systems. And there is funding available to address cybersecurity risks. The traditional funding pots would be our Clean Water Indian Set-Aside funding, which would address wastewater cybersecurity needs, our Drinking Water Tribal Set-Aside, which could be used to address cybersecurity risks within your water utility. And then I learned yesterday that there's a new grant program coming out next year addressing mid and large public water system infrastructure resiliency and sustainability. So another pot of money that I understand will be available next year that could be utilized for cybersecurity improvement infrastructure or protections that you may want to put in place. And lastly, our website has a link to FBI, as I mentioned, but here I want to highlight CISA. Because our partner federal agency in this work has a cyber grant program. So there are opportunities that our website will direct you to outside of EPA. And again, we're really encouraging you all to contact us, work with us to figure out if you've got that operational technology, if you have information technology, that connection to the internet that poses a threat. The first step would be to work with us to conduct that cybersecurity assessment, and then we'll be following up to make sure the risk mitigation plan with those recommended corrective actions is understandable and followed through. So we'll do everything we can to facilitate cybersecurity assessment and follow-up work. And with that, I think I finished my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. So again, thank you all. Now,
that was great. I just wanted to share, I worked for a commercial laboratory 10 years ago, and they were the target of a phishing email. Someone clicked it. They managed to lock all the laboratory data, client data. It stopped the laboratory. They had to eventually reach out to FBI, I believe. I don't know how they they actually resolved it, but that was a huge issue for the laboratory. And that was a company that was used to dealing with really sensitive data. And I've seen a number of phishing emails go around the tribal email lists because there's blasts that have different tribes. And so just to be cautious.
Thank you, Jean. Most definitely. You know, something I didn't touch upon here is not only the cyber threat, but, you know, when we get into this world of protecting water systems, we also talk about, you know, protecting your system through kind of physical measures from physical sabotage, security fencing and other precautions, access control, but also just training and educating utility workers and tribal members. If you see something, say something, keep your eyes open and report any, folks lurking around your pump house, because unfortunately, we work in a targeted sector, and we do have real world examples of, again, those malicious physical attacks as well as cyber attacks. I think you got a mic coming, Heidi.
Thanks. Is cybersecurity going to become part of the sanitary survey deficiency, or the sanitary surveys?
Well, great question. As originally proposed, we had envisioned incorporating it as a required element of cybersecurity. Of sanitary surveys. However, the rule, as I mentioned, was contested and withdrawn. So this is a voluntary program that we're discussing. It's not currently a required element of sanitary surveys, but that is an obvious touch point, if you will, or pathway for us to gain information and to interview you in person when we're out conducting a sanitary survey. Us program managers like to participate in those in person. So yes, we'll be discussing it during sanitary surveys, but it's not currently a required element. Well, I don't see any other questions. I think I raced through a couple points. I really do want to emphasize that the concept of a cybersecurity assessment sounds pretty daunting, but I really want to bring it down to earth and let you know, again, it's a series of, I think, 28 questions organized in the format of an Excel spreadsheet. You can download the the water cybersecurity assessment tool, another federal acronym, WCAT. You can download the spreadsheet, the assessment tool from our website. So you can take a look at that and contact your IT department if you're lucky enough to have one, and ask them questions, try to sort through that yourself. Again, if you have a question, that website has a really easy way to get in touch with a subject matter expert in this area. But our goal is to encourage you to click that button, request a cybersecurity assessment, and EPA will reach out and will work with you to conduct that, with assistance. Some folks might be thinking, well, geez, isn't the process of doing an assessment and coming up with a risk mitigation plan, a risk itself? Now we're going to put this stuff in paper. Well, we don't want to see a copy of your cybersecurity assessment. We're not going to ask you for a copy. The subject matter expert will walk you through a series of these questions. The risk mitigation plan will be delivered to you via a secured Dropbox location so the utility can maintain the assessment and any follow-up documentation. It's not going to reside in EPA's files. All we really want to know is that if you have an operational technology and a cyber risk, if you will, that, you've checked that box and done your due diligence to work through a cybersecurity assessment and corrective actions to be, as protective as possible in this threat environment. And I should say, somebody like me who's not really a techie guy, these seem like really simple suggestions and an easy to use process. So I'm confident reaching out. We'll produce some real assistance and help you get over that inertia and protect your utility as best we can.
Hi, I just wanted to share with folks, I've worked with a lot of tribal clients in the past, in a past career, and one of the things that I did with a client who had some cybersecurity issues was we paid for a private assessment, and then the client was able to use that to go to the council and create some urgency behind the issue, and get some funding applications together. And they were able actually to then, as a result, build out their IT department because we have this assessment, we have this need. They use that to get some funding that built out their IT department, and then it became the IT department's problem as opposed to their program's problem. So I just wanted to throw that out there for folks.
Thank you. I was, again, perusing our website, reading all of these case studies, and I did run across that scenario. Of course, you all are welcome to reach out to private sector cybersecurity consulting firms, and they have a wonderful resource, vast network of IT professionals I'm sure you could tap into. Of course, that comes with a cost. So if you wanted to work through us for a free voluntary cybersecurity assessment, we've got those subject matter experts on staff. But yes, if it makes sense and funds are available, those private sector contractors could assist in the effort as well.
Sorry, yeah, the point wasn't go private, but just you can use the assessment to get some attention from the council and get some resources to the issue, and then hopefully, get an expert to handle that as opposed to you having to now wear a cybersecurity hat for your utility or your program.
Yep, it's going to be really interesting as we move into this in the interface between us and the direct implementation team, your program managers, and then our folks in the infrastructure team, because to my knowledge, I don't know if we've funded any infrastructure projects directly addressing cybersecurity. So I'm trying to get my head around kind of what we would fund, because our infrastructure program funds just that, infrastructure. Whether we can maybe we'll be purchasing new computer hardware. Maybe software could be an element of that to address cybersecurity. I just don't know. So we'll work through that with you. And of course, this is a priority for the agency. So again, if we get stuck with, bureaucratic rules and one funding source, we'll search for another. And we're committed, as I mentioned earlier, to use all of our resources to assist tribal utilities address this risk and provide safe water. I anticipate this is going to be a hard question.
Thanks, Greg. Hi, everybody. I'm Emmanuel Rapacavali. So I manage the tribal infrastructure section. Greg had alluded to some funding resources to address cybersecurity. One thing I wanted to plug, I think the program you mentioned under EPA, is a national competitive grant program that's really focused on water resilience. And there was a tribal applicant this past round who received funding for new SCADA systems as part of that competitive grant program. So that may be a first go at seeking infrastructure funding to install some of these controls once you've done an assessment. Our infrastructure program could also lend itself if there was an identifiable health risk. If you did an assessment, found a health risk, and there was an infrastructure fix. So this is the drinking water tribal set aside program and the excuse me, the clean water Indian set aside. Nancy's going to be hosting a session at 10:30 and to talk a little bit more about those programs. So if you're interested, those are our base funding programs that we operate in the region. Our counterparts at headquarters run these competitive grant programs under EPA, and there have been at least one successful tribal applicant in our region this past go around. So we'll certainly get the word out of future rounds of funding.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Emmanuel. And again, if you work in a tribal utility, this isn't the first time you're going to hear from EPA on cybersecurity. Your program manager will be reaching out within the next few months to ask you these questions about OT and IT and whether you think you have a risk, and whether that be on a Teams call that's scheduled or during a scheduled sanitary survey. Again, we'll be reaching out to you this year. We'll conduct that inventory of operational technology, and then again follow up with those systems that have a potential risk to mitigate that through the process I outlined. Well, thank you all so much. I thought I might have a slim audience, but this was great. Again, thank you.